Hello, everyone. Welcome to the day three of the Hudson Valley Tech Festival. I'm excited to welcome our speakers. Here is our conference link if you want to find the schedule. And we want to admit we successfully survived 2 days and now we're entering the day three with the first talk and first speaker today, Daniela Marquez. Here is her talk. How understanding the gifters JTBD creates a win-win-win. So let me introduce Daniela. Daniela Marquez is the Vice President of Product and Growth at Lovingly. Before joining Lovingly in 2017, Daniela was bridged technology and media throughout her career in analog devices, AV technology, and NBC Universal. Okay. Daniela graduated from the University of Michigan with a dual degree in electrical engineering and sound engineering, bringing together her passion for creativity and technology, and love it. In Lovingly, Daniela has focused on bringing the in-store experience of buying flowers into the online world through her strength in being an empathy and data-driven product strategist. She's an eternal problem solver. I love it too. Okay, let me stop here. I will stop share and I will allow Daniela to say anything she wants about herself. And I'm starting to hear her talk.
All
Welcome,
right.
Daniela.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. And if you're seeing a blank screen, that's not a mistake. That's how we're going to start off today. I'm super excited to get started here. And thank you very much for the kind intro, Yulia. I'm really excited to be here. And we're going to jump right in. Okay. So I want everyone to really be asking themselves this question throughout the presentation. Do you know what it is that your customers are trying to do when they hire you? Whether they hire you, your tool, your product, your service, or your software. Why is it that they're hiring you to accomplish their task or job? At the core of today's talk is this concept of the customer's job to be done, or JTBD, if you don't want to say the whole thing. And my hope is that you walk away with one insight that will help you go back to your particular field or your industry and help you get to know your customers a little bit better. But why? Why put in the effort to get to know your customers? Maybe you'd say, people are already buying, revenue's good, what difference does it make? Well, at the end of the day, we do business with people. And I'll argue that the better we understand the people who are using our products and services, the better that we can serve them. And then magic starts to happen. These are the smiles of people across the US and Canada who've received flowers from a loved one on the Lovingly platform. And they're proof that, at least for them, in their case, their loved ones, or gifters, as we call them, did in fact achieve their job to be done. In the next 25 minutes or so, we're going to cover the job to be done framework and journey mapping. And I'll share some examples of how we did this at Lovingly, and how by putting the gifter first and understanding their journey, we were able to create a win-win-win situation for all that are involved in the floral space, the gifter and recipient, the local florist, and of course, Lovingly as well. And because of that, now we have those amazing examples of those smiling recipients that we just shared, sharing their gratitude and excitement, having received that thoughtful, handcrafted, meaningful gift. By way of quick intro, I'm, again, as Julia said, I'm the VP of Growth at Lovingly. I'm excited to be here at the HVTechFest'. I was actually an audience member back in 2019, and I remember turning around to one of my colleagues saying, like, we have to be a part of this amazing event. It's right here in our backyard. And so fast forward to today, here we are, and I'm really excited to be able to share this presentation with everyone. And as you could also probably tell from the pre-intro, Lovingly is an online gifting company. And we work with about 1,500 local florists across the US and Canada, helping connect gifters who want to send a gift to local florists to help them send these amazing floral arrangements to their loved ones. All right, so JTBD, or job to be done. This was actually a topic that I first discovered around 5 years ago, reading Clay Christensen's book, The Innovator's Dilemma. And I completely recommend anyone to read that book, or at least search on YouTube for the full explanation. It's really fantastic to hear the story from Clay himself. But I'll give you the cliff notes today and really the punchline. I believe it was McDonald's, or a company that was trying to drive up sales for milkshakes. They did some of the classic, demographics, research and marketing, and even tasting examples, like bringing folks in for a user group and like, do you like this sample or this sample? Trying to understand how they could drive up sales for milkshakes by the taste and all this different stuff. But then Clay got hired in to help. And when they came in, they kind of took a step back and they really tried to understand the problem a little bit better. Why were people buying milkshakes in the first place? And here's what they discovered. Nearly half the milkshakes that were sold before 8 a.m. The people who bought them were alone, and then they got in the car and drove off. When they did subsequent interviews with these folks, what they discovered is that they all had the same job to be done in the morning. It was their commute. Granted, this was obviously prior to everyone being virtual, but the problem with the commute was that it was long and boring. And what the milkshake provided, other than just filling your belly, obviously, because you're hungry in the morning, but it provided something that wasn't obtrusive while driving. You could hold it in one hand versus like a bagel that might get messy and then you have cream cheese on your hands and this whole bit. And it wasn't over in 2 minutes. So a banana you can fit in one hand, but you eat it and it's over. They could continue to enjoy the milkshake over the whole drive because you're just drinking it little by little. So the milkshake actually provided entertainment over the long, boring commute. That was the job to be done for the milkshake, to be entertaining. So now knowing that job to be done, what could the company do to drive up sales? Maybe they could make the milkshake thicker so it would take even longer to enjoy it, or provide little chunks of fruit to make it surprising and delightful and drive up that entertainment factor. So leveraging that example of the milkshake, how can we apply this to flowers? It's really tempting to say that the job to be done is buy flowers. That's it, right? Buy the milkshake, you're hungry, buy flowers, you're, celebrating a birthday or something. But that's not enough to get to the true understanding. So the first thing we have to do is become an annoying 5-year-old and say, why? And I know this, not annoying, but I have a wonderful 5-year-old who does ask me why all the time. So let's follow this particular example. I want to buy flowers. Why? It's my mom's birthday. Okay, first obvious insight. Now we have at least the high level job to be done to celebrate a mom's birthday. But we can't stop here because there's multiple different gifts or things that could be hired to solve for mom's birthday. Of course, flowers is one of them, but you could buy perfume or a sweater. So we have to go deeper. Why would you hire flowers for your mom's birthday? So the next question gets closer to the root of what's going on. How do you want your mom to feel on her birthday? Okay, I want her to feel special. I want her to show her how grateful we are for everything she does. Now we're getting somewhere. And I want to hone in on a very important word that's kind of our key, which is special. I want her to feel special. And here's the insight. Flowers, as opposed to perfume or chocolates or a sweater, flowers are fresh, they're artistic because they're uniquely crafted. And flowers are the only thing that essentially convey this message of, hey, you don't just get this run-of-the-mill present off the shelf, like those other gifts. You're getting something that is handcrafted that is unique and designed by a local florist. So in this particular example for Mom's birthday, the job to be done for the flowers is to communicate the message of, I love you and I want you to feel special. And flowers are perfect for this job. Flowers are the ones that need to be hired for this job because of the nature of being handcrafted and uniquely designed by a local florist. Cool. So we have the job to be done. That sounds great, but now what? What do we actually do with this? Well, for starters, we can start to mirror the language on our website copy, our ads, our emails, and we can start to meet customers, at least the ones that are buying flowers for Mom's birthday, where they are. So imagine an ad that maybe appears on Facebook. And here's a couple different variants, and we can see the progression of how they get closer and closer to meeting that job to be done. So the first one, pretty transactional, where we started. I have to send flowers for Mom's birthday. Now, I'm not saying that this won't work, it won't be effective, because there's multiple different types of segments and people. You can imagine someone who has a very busy schedule, they've got their to-do list of everything they need to do, and this might interrupt them and they say, oh man, I almost forgot Mom's birthday, let me go do that, boom. But we can do better to match our initial example of the job to be done for feeling special. So B, we can start to see the introduction of more emotion with Make Mom Smile this birthday, which is a level up from the transactional place that we started, which is just send flowers. But again, based on our example, it doesn't really achieve that root of what the customer really wants to accomplish, which is to make Mom feel special. So lastly, now we have Make Mom Feel Special this birthday with flowers as unique as she is. And what this does is actually reflect back to the customer, or gifter again, as we call them, and it actually shows them what it is that they're trying to accomplish. This says hire flowers in order to make your mom feel special. Mom is unique, and so are the flowers that you can send. Here's my big caveat though. This is obviously one example and one customer feedback. This is not enough, and not all gifters are the same, right? We kind of covered this idea of the obligation buyer or the emotion buyer, and we can't treat everyone the same. There's different types of moms, there's different types of birthdays, not to mention all the different types of celebrations. We couldn't treat someone buying for sympathy in the same way. But the point in doing this is the process and understanding the customer segment. We can really start to better personalize the experience in the product and across the entire funnel by knowing what their job to be done is. Okay, hopefully that sounds great, but how do we actually uncover that insight? How do we find the job to be done? So I want to introduce a framework that we've created at Lovingly to help discover the job to be done. And what I'll do is I'll cover all the steps at a high level first, and then we'll go through this again with a particular example of how this was applied for buying flowers. And really the first step starts with mapping the customer journey. This is the job of understanding every single touch point a customer goes through when they interact with your product or service, and literally creating a map of every step that they take. Now, as soon as we cover this top level framework, I'll spend a little more time on this. This almost deserves its own talk, but there's a lot that can be learned from creating a customer journey map. Now, once you've done that, there's some nugget that's going to come out of that, some insight, some discovery because of the steps that your customers are taking. And it could be by leveraging data, Google Analytics, or heat maps, or even better, something that they're saying along the way that you can then start to create patterns. And that's the third step, pattern matching. So you're reading these responses or looking at particular patterns of people who stay longer on a particular page or step, and starting to group these different customer behaviors. And then from those patterns, you're going to be able to converge upon a particular insight. So there's a hypothesis that's going to come out of these insights. And then you take that hypothesis and create a survey around it. Because now we're looking at data that has happened. we're creating a hypothesis, and now we're going to go back to help refine that hypothesis with actual customers to help then get to the one point where we say, like, this is what we're going to test, or this is what we're going to launch. And even when you launch it, it's even a better idea if you're able to launch that as an A/B test, for example, because now you're getting actual real customers who are validating that assumption in real life. Now, as I mentioned, before we go into looking at the specifics of how we applied this for the flower use case, what I'd like to do is take just a little bit of time to kind of talk about how to do the customer journey map. And as I mentioned, like, this almost deserves its own treatment and deep dive. And there's tons of amazing resources out there that walk through how to create a customer journey map. But what I wanted to do here is share just some of the highlights of what we found to be helpful. And hopefully there's something that you can take away from this. So this can be as easy as starting in Google Sheets or Excel, whatever tool you prefer. And again, you're creating a matrix that starts with whatever action it is that your customer is taking throughout their entire experience with your product, and then filling out those steps. So let's go through each one of these here. So customer activity. This is the actual micro step that somebody's taking, performing a search, landing on a particular page, clicking a button, or whatever those items are. And then for each of those steps, the goal is to understand, what is your customer's goal in that particular moment? What are they trying to do in that step? So for example, when somebody lands on the homepage, it could be like, the goal is, did I land in the right place? Am I here to do what I need to do? And then the context or trap is, what contextual information or mode could cause friction in that particular step for the customer. So understanding maybe what are some of the pitfalls of that step, and whether that's something that's on your system, or maybe a competitor is not doing that in the right way, and you can be able to overcome it. Because now in the fourth step, the solution in motion, is like, how does your tool or solution overcome that potential for the context trap? And because you overcome that, what's the resulting emotion of the customer? So in that example of, like, okay, I've landed on the homepage and the customer's asking, did I land in the right place? The context or trap, or the potential for a pitfall would be, not having the right information on the homepage. And then the solution is a very clear value prop in the headline. In our case, send flowers they'll love, and a beautiful picture that shows the flowers. So those things start to communicate, you landed in the right place to send flowers. And then the resulting emotion is like, that ease and anxiety goes down from the gifter, because they know that they've landed in the right place. So that's just one step, right? So the goal is to do that for every single step that happens. And then the other things that start to happen, which are really cool, is that you start to assign a business metric or KPI for all those different steps. And these basically form the micro conversions. And so you can start to tweak different elements along the entire customer journey or gifter's journey, and be able to improve that experience. And with that, then, who in the organization is responsible for driving that metric or success in that particular step? So that was a quick little aside on the customer journey. And now we're going to go back to that top level framework for job to be done, and see how we do it for flowers. Okay, step one, mapping the customer journey, right? We already talked about a little bit that. So the goal in this, again, is to ask, what actually happens, when you buy flowers? And we took an approach of looking again at every single touch point to truly rediscover what it means to send a gift. Because the irony about this is, like, we think we know, it's like, oh yeah, you land on the page, you go to products, you go to this, you buy. But when you actually go through this process and start with, like, the idea of, like, oh, I want to be able to send a gift. I do a Google search, I land on the homepage. All this process helps you actually truly discover what is going on from the mindset of the gifter who's experiencing that process. So we went through that entire process, mapped everything out. And then the goal was, to find a unique insight. And when digging into the gifter's journey, what we discovered was that the true expression of how they wanted their recipients to feel, and really the why behind their gift, in our case, was really lucky, it was written in plain text. And what's interesting here is that this is where we really see that not all customers are the same. So with our example, right, with sending flowers for mom's birthday, we have a lot of card messages that just said, "Happy birthday, mom, love you." Or, "Happy birthday, mom, thanks for everything you've done throughout the years. You're the reason that, I'm the person that I am today." So that is a completely, totally different sentiment. And you could make the assumption that the job to be done in the first case is just an obligation present. Like, they didn't spend much time in the card message. It's like, boom, got to go get flowers and I'm done. But in the second case, it's really to communicate gratitude and thanks. Now, what's interesting about that sort of example is that this becomes a much more powerful tool for segmentation than straight up demographics. Because rather than lumping all female buyers between 20 and 30, that segment of the population is vastly different. But if we separate between obligation buyers, just getting that thing done, checking off my checklist, versus the emotion-driven buyers, those journeys are much different. And for example, you could streamline everything for the obligation buyer, make it as quick as possible, as seamless, and just get the job done, snappy. But for the thoughtful, more emotion-driven person, you could add those moments of delight and surprise that help them express themselves even better in order to meet them when they are, because they want to be able to express that emotion. So not every industry is as lucky that has card message that's telling you exactly what they're saying, but there might be a signal or a clue that you can pay attention to that your customers are giving you some sort of information. From a data-driven approach, you can look at, let's say, how long they're spending in a particular step. You could look at the actual sequence of steps they're taking. Maybe they're leaving reviews. Maybe their comments on social media about certain processes, or even field level analytics. These insights can be from multiple different places, but the key is to attribute some sort of particular insight from a step in the journey. Cool. And again, the next step here is now pattern matching. So we've identified some sort of insight because of the customer journey. And now we can start to group and match similar things. So for us, one example was the obligation buyer versus the more emotion-driven buyer. But there's other things as well. What type of occasion is it? Or what reason is it? What source or medium? Where are they coming from? What device are they using? And all these different signals create a different interpretation and tell you a little bit more about what the customer is doing. And now, because of all these patterns, the goal is to converge upon an insight that's derived from that. So again, saying, okay, the obligation buyer and the emotion buyer, we're going to focus on the emotion-driven buyer. And then that insight is sending flowers from mom. They want to make her feel special. Okay, now what can we do with that? And just to actually kind of show, these are actually real examples of card messages for mom's birthday. So these were part of the groupings. And you can start to see how, these go way beyond just that idea of happy birthday. So you can see, we wish to be there to celebrate your birthday, but sadly we can't. We hope you feel our love through this gift. So flowers in this case are really communicating the presence of, the family that can't be there to show that, they're together with mom. Cheers to 80 glorious years. You're such an inspiration to us. We're eternally grateful for you. Have a wonderful birthday. This is all about gratitude. Thank you for everything you've done. 80 glorious years. That's awesome. And last but not least, love you, mama. Wishing the most wonderful mom, the most wonderful day. You deserve it. I hope these brighten up your house and fill it with fragrance. And this is really cool too, because we can see here that it's like, hey, I want you to feel amazing. And flowers brighten up your house, fill it with fragrance. This is very, you can have the senses lighted up here. And so all these are wonderful examples of how you can start to converge upon that idea. And then whatever that sentiment or pattern or hypothesis that comes out of this pattern matching, the goal is to refine it via surveys. So test that assumption with real customers. Ask questions. You know, what almost stopped you from purchasing? Did you consider a different gift? What was the most difficult part of the purchase? What convinced you to continue your purchase? How confident are you that your recipient will like your gift? These are just a few of the different examples of things that you can do to start converging upon insights. And what we leverage Hotjar here, as you can see in the screenshot, and everyone who's coming out after they purchase, this comes up, and now you can start to refine some of these insights further. And the goal with that is then to say, okay, here's a change we're going to make. Here's what we want to put on the website and in the email, in the new ad. And what's really cool here is, you know, maybe there was 2 different things that came out of that. And we're like, oh man, I'm not really sure which one is better. You can launch it with an A/B test, because we know that not all gifters are the same. And this is a great way to start seeing, like, is this insight, we know this insight matches a particular segment, but how big is that segment? And is that representative of all the traffic and all the gifters that are coming to the website? So that's a way to kind of be able to launch and test and refine. Excellent. And driving that down into sort of a real world example that is live right now. And you can check it out by going to lovingly.com/give. We created a conversational guided gifting experience. Because what we realized here is that a lot of times when people go to buy flowers, they don't know much about flowers, but they really want to send something nice. And the best possible way today to buy flowers is actually to walk into a flower shop and talk to the florist, because they're the experts. They know what the flowers mean, the fragrance, all these things. And so the goal here was like, how can we replicate that magic that happens in the flower shop when you're having that conversation with the florist, but bring that online? And so that really was what created this sort of guided gifting experience. And what's really cool about it is that it matches people where they are. And you can see that in the example here. It's like, you know, what's so nice of you to think of mom. What brings you here today? So what had happened here is that we asked prior to this step, who are you sending flowers to? So now that we know who it is, we can sort of tailor the different questions. And this really sets the tone. Rather than a traditional sort of experience, which again, the obligation buyer is perfect for, I'm going to birthday and I'm going to find that in the navigation and flow there. But this allows to get more to the emotion and the sentiment. I'm celebrating something, or it's a difficult time, or just because. And this puts the control back in the gifter's seat to say how they want to feel and match that emotion, that goal, their job to be done, with their experience throughout the being online trying to send flowers. So I hope that was helpful to kind of see what that looks like. And thank you very much. This was my talk today, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
Was curious, what is JTBD before I started to realize job to be done.
Yes, that is it.
Is it the industry term known in UI UX industry specifically?
But yes, it's pretty common in
Web design,
UX and product.
development?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it something to learn, to study in any specific computer science?
I would definitely recommend. It's a good concept because a lot of the times it's so easy to just say, to be transactional about it. Like even in the flower example, like oh, the job to be done is to buy flowers. But if you just think that, that's company centric. Lovingly wants you to buy flowers, but the gifter, or the customer, they're thinking about their specific moment. Like, I want someone to smile. I want someone to feel special. Like, that's their goal. So if you think from that mindset, then you're able to provide a better experience. And then also obviously drive up revenue because you're getting more people to purchase because you're matching them where they are.
Okay, this is really multi-dimensional perspective. I never thought this way. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Also, I have another question which goes personally to you.
Okay.
I was wondering, how do you have time? Free time, it says in your profile. How do you have free time?
That's why it's in quotes.
Right. You run marathons in addition to your full-time job, right? Actually, which called President of Product and Growth, which probably consumes more than 100% of your working time. You have time for marathons. Or it says win-win. When you run marathons, you can do more.
I'll be honest. I haven't run a marathon in a while, but I have run 18 of them. I'm doing the smaller distances right now.
But you also have time to play piano and trombone. Trombones really excites me.
Oh, it is fun. Yeah, I started in grade school playing trombone and then played in jazz bands and other things. And then when I was living in Boston, I was in a funk band and had a lot of fun with that. It's
totally in your DNA, what you have in your profile. You bridge technology and media throughout your career.
Yeah.
And your analog devices, AV technology, and now web development, right? Or startup world. This is amazing, actually. And you have a family. I don't know when you have time for all of that.
I know. The working from home has been a little bit helpful to, it's good and bad, right? Because all of a sudden you'll have the kids screaming in the background in Zoom. No, it's been nice, and being able to have that flexibility to help out and on the moment being home.
I see a comment. Awesome as always, Daniela. And another comment that is so cool. I am glad you're able to time manage and have it all. She's multi-talented. She's multi-dimensional. She's definitely multi.
Sometimes sleep suffers a little bit. Oh, did I see?
Any advice you can give to? Any advice?
Advice?
You can give, first of all, to young developers who are just entering into this world.
Yeah.
And then the second question would go to professional product and growth. Yeah.
I think the best advice I can give is seek to understand the why. And that works in so many different facets of life. Why driven. Ask why, like I mentioned, like the annoying put your annoying 5-year-old hat on and ask why. Because every time you ask that, you get a level deeper in understanding, or sometimes discover that oh wait, we weren't aligned, we weren't doing the right thing. And it's asking questions, whether it's why or help me understand that a little bit better, really is the most powerful tool that I've found, especially even if when you disagree with somebody, rather than going for the conflict, you're okay, help me understand, why, and then the onus is on the other person to explain. And maybe you discover that they really had a good point and you're oh, fantastic, okay, I got it now. Or they themselves realize that they really didn't have a solid foundation, and now they're more open to listening to your point of view. So questions are your most powerful tool that you have in your toolkit.
It's wonderful, actually, advice. It's applicable to your life, personal life, professional life.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. Conflict resolution.
Totally. Yes.
It's really highly appreciated. Another question was about UI, UX, and product development, growth specifically. If you would be just entering in this field, I don't know when you started, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, what the advice you would give yourself in terms of growth and development, product development, maybe UI, UX perspective, where to start, what to consider, It can be one advice or couple.
I mean, I think what's so amazing right now, there's so many good resources out there, like the UX Collective on Medium, Bounce Exchange for like really consider the entire world, not just UI, UX or product. Look at marketing. Like prior to entering into product, I was pretty much a strict engineer. I used to write assembly code, right? And I had I laugh at myself thinking back because I was like, oh, what's like marketing? Why do people need marketing? The product is good. People are just going to use it. And as I grew in understanding, I was like, oh man, like marketing really is about understanding people so you can communicate your message and help, make things change for the better. And I think that having that well-rounded approach and really not dismissing marketing, but seeing how powerful it can be is great. And the other thing is doing tons and tons of competitive research, not necessarily just for competitors, but look at all different types of websites, or if that's your field, website design, like not just the Amazons or the big guys, like even smaller companies that sell gift cards or this, and just really understand what they're doing. Look at the reviews. Reviews are gold mines, even if they're on competitor sites, because you can start to pattern match and mine those insights, whether they're positive or negative. And though, like, there's gems that come out of that. And through all that, I think the biggest thing to allow yourself to do is sometimes, I initially felt this in my career. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing something right now. I'm not producing. I almost had this like fear because I'm not checking off something on my checklist. I'm just reading or absorbing. Like, that's part of the job. So build in that time in your calendar where you're exploring and learning. Because like when you do that and you're in that mindset and you allow yourself to fully be in that mode, that's where those gems and those insights really come through.
This is fantastic. I see like multiple advices right here in these small pieces. This is amazing, Daniela. While we're talking here, the hackathon participants are working to hack. Actually, they were hacking till 1 a.m. I saw.
That's awesome. I love it.
They started at 7 a.m. today.
Ooh,
and they're preparing themselves. So I think if you would be available, jump, help them, mentor them, because they would benefit from this perspective so much. Review their slide decks. They are willing, or they are trying to compete with each other. It's amazing what they got already so far. Oh, you would be such a mentor.
Very cool. So is that into a different Zoom link, or how does that work?
I will get everything to you. Everything's
Let me know.
Happens on Discord right now.
Okay.
Let's
let me see what I can do.
Slack, and I will guide you through Slack. Everyone, actually, welcome to join HVTechFest Slack channel. The link to Slack can be found at the bottom of our website, hvtechfest.com, and at the bottom you can see join HVTechFest Slack. Okay, that's where the coordination happening, and hackathoners live in Discord. Okay, this was fantastic. Anyone has any other questions? I see Cindy is interested in any career advice for computer science student. Maybe how to choose what to focus on. Computer science is a broad one.
It's very broad. I mean, for me, when I first was looking for my first job out of college, what was important to me was to be able to do that bridge. So I really was looking for audio, like being a musician. I wanted that to be a part of it. So if there's something, a passion that you have, sometimes the link isn't necessarily obvious, but it might be there. So let's say you're at a health nut. Maybe look at Peloton, what careers that they have. So try, if possible, if you're able to marry like the technology side of it with a passion, it's fantastic, because then you're really seeing the fruit of what you're doing, both as a technologist, but also as a user.
Yeah, it's kind of trying to marry your hobby or your passion together with the tool.
Exactly.
Technology. Awesome. And then you will find the application level layer.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was full of wisdom. You're a tremendous asset for the festival. Always pleasure to host you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you
you so
so
much for having
much.
me. Yeah.
Okay, I will stop recording right here and we'll have a break till next speaker at 11 a.m. Watch out, next speaker will be giving you away some freebies, some really interesting sensors and tools, physical tools. And another exciting thing, we have only local speakers. It's amazing. Hudson Valley,
Way
East
to
Coast.
go. Woohoo.
Thank you. See you at 11 a.m.